everybody. I'm Hillary Atkin from the Atkin Report, and I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Burke Floyd to this edition of Hillary's Happy Hour. Burke, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much, Hillary. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Good to be having even a virtual happy hour with you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know, you're busy working like so many actors. You have some projects in the can. You're shooting some stuff right now. And first thing I want to talk about is your show for Apple TV Plus with O'Shea Jackson Jr. It sounds really cool. Tell us more about Swagger. What's it about?
Oh, thank you so much for bringing up Swagger. Yeah, I am over the moon ecstatic about being a part of the show. Swagger is going to be for Apple TV Plus, produced by CBS Studios and Imagine Entertainment. So already out of the gate, it runs with a kind of in rarefied air. Certainly for a guy like me to be working on a show like that with that kind of production team behind it. Reggie Bythewood is our showrunner. Executive producer, director, El Jefe, and his ability to work current poignant topic matter into the storyline in a way that doesn't feel like it's being forced down your throat. It's very organic, is remarkable. O'Shea Jackson, by the way, that guy, he is a bundle of positivity. He's a consummate pro, and he's immensely talented. But it's just fun on set with him, to work with him on set. And Tristan Mac Wilds as well. Mac, what's good? He's my guy, man. He was on The Wire when he was like 14 years old for HBO. And that's what it feels like a little. It feels a little like, because of the Apple TV Plus and the product that they're capable of putting out, it feels a little like that, of being in the heyday of HBO 20 years ago, when The Sopranos and The Wire and just these groundbreaking, really pivotal, award-winning, highly recognized shows were coming out. It feels a lot like being on those sets, and kind of seeing it from that side is so cool. I'm really, really fortunate to be there, especially, as you mentioned, especially with the past year and COVID and everything. It's like, to be back on network television and working on a show like that, like Swagger, I'm just mind blowing. It's so cool. Every day to go to work is such an adventure.
Yeah, well, it's very exciting because Apple TV Plus, let's remind people, it only started just a little more than a year ago. And they started with, of course, the morning show, Big Bang, right out of the gate there. But now with Ted Lasso, I know, you and I have talked, it's one of both of our favorite shows. And they have so much else coming up with incredible talent. It's amazing what they've been able to achieve in such a short time. So congratulations for being part of that whole huge scene at Apple TV Plus. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, to be a part of that family. I mean, I remember, look, and you're right, Ted Lasso is what we needed in 2020 that we didn't know we needed, right? I love that show. But yeah, it's, when I was on All My Children, I remember going in, this again, years and years ago, and I was just in my early 20s. And I remember going in for my audition, and they had the pictures of current cast up, Cameron Matheson and Josh Duhamel, and, of course, Susan Lucci, and, all of it, Kelly Ripa, Michael Tate, all of these pictures. And I remember walking down the hallway to the room where I was going to audition to casting with Eli Trey. And I remember walking down that hallway and seeing these pictures and being like, man, one day, and I ended up booking. So I got to be one of those pictures. But that impact it had on me is kind of how I imagine now being on Swagger. I think back to that as a kid and how in awe I was of the company I was being blessed to keep. And to be able to play in the sandbox at Apple TV, I can see those posters, like exactly I can see that morning show poster with Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, I can see that Ted Lasso. I mean, it's just really, just to think that somewhere at Apple TV, someone knows my name is like,
I think you're being a little too modest, frankly. You have a couple, aside from the, streaming, you have a couple of big screen films coming out, whether, some people will get to see them in theaters. Some of us will still have to see them at home, but let's hear about Sour, your upcoming film.
Sure,
One
yeah.
of them. Let's hear about Sour first.
Sour is such a cool, such an amazing. We shot it over a year ago before lockdown, and as and it sat and after edit and after it was bought and picked up, and Green Apple Entertainment is distributing and Atonement. I mean, it's great company to be with. It was, where's it going to air? What are we going to do with it? Do we put it in theaters? Do we put it out on streaming? And so it's been decided it'll come out VOD, video on demand. It'll come out streaming. And we'll have a small theatrical run as well, so that it's eligible for all of the awards. But it's a crime thriller, kind of, you paid for the whole seat, but you only need the edge. Horror, there are aspects of horror to it. Story about a detective who's gone through a rough time. He takes his niece in because his sister and her husband have passed away, and so he takes in his niece, and they move into this house together. So that he's just trying to do the best he can to put the pieces of his life back together and support his niece at the same time. And the landlord is just played by yours truly. Is just it's just there are these something's not right, and it's hard for them to put their finger on it at first, and for the audience as well. And when you discover, and no spoilers here, although I know for a fact, Miss Hillary Atkin, you are one. If there is a spoiler to be had in journalism for entertainment, I know you're the one to get it, but I promised them I wouldn't blow it. You can't drag it out of me, but no spoilers.
Try, go ahead.
But the end is very, the ending 1/3 of the movie answers a lot of those questions that you have from the first 2/3. And it's out there. It's crazy and fun. And I'm really excited for people to finally get to see it. You do them, and it, like, on Minority Report, it was 8 months or something, but there's so much edit and so much FX and such a big movie that that's going to be a slower process. For this one, to wait a year for it to come out is crazy, but I'm happy that it finally is happening, and I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you separately about working on Minority Report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Directed by Steven Spielberg.
The one and only. Yeah, starring Tom Cruise and Colin Farrell. Yeah, that movie was amazing. I did 9 weeks on that. We filmed at Universal Studios. I'll tell you that a lot of the stuff about that I remember most, and that is really defined who I wanted to be as an actor, was Tom Cruise. He was so immensely professional. I mean, we all know he's talented. We all know he's a movie star. He's a movie star, right? And then he does Jerry Maguire or Born on the 4th of July, and you realize he's a movie star and can really, really act. But to see him work, he is so detail oriented as both an actor and on that as an executive producer as well, that it was just, the amount, he'll forget more today about making a hit blockbuster amazing movie than I'll ever know in my entire life. That he is a genius, and his ability to be detail oriented is like, and go both, follow both. I'm on screen and what's happening in front of him and around him, and everything is unbelievable. And I do have one 15-second anecdote about Minority Report that I love, that I do want to share with you, because this will be breaking. I've never told this story publicly before.
Oh, let's hear it.
We were at the Ronald Reagan building in Washington, D.C. It was July 4th. We were filming in Washington, D.C. Our dressing rooms were downstairs, and there's this 2 giant escalators that led up to the common area outside that was the outside of pre-crime. So we had these giant statues that were brought in. They were actually there. They were practical. They were really there. These giant precog statues out in this common space outside. So we were coming around. We were being brought to set. We were coming around. It was Tom and his team, Colin Farrell and I, and a couple of other people, and we had our production assistants taking us, and they held the escalators. So both escalators were going down, and there were guys in suits, like Secret Service looking, sunglasses and suits and earpieces. And Colin and I looked at each other and were like, who do you think this is? And we were trying to look up to the top to see who was coming down the escalator. It was Lionel Richie. And he was singing at the 4th of July Independence Day thing on the mall. And he was just coming to say hello to Tom and to Steven Spielberg. But Lionel Richie held an escalator and Tom Cruise had to wait for that escalator. Because Colin and I were like, who the Pope? Who's the president? Who's up there that Tom Cruise is made to wait? Who could possibly be coming down this escalator? And it was Lionel Richie himself, the Commodore himself. So anyway,
what a great and fun memory. And
yeah,
but I want to get back to, you've done some amazing stuff in the past, but you also have another really cool project coming up that I'm looking forward to, a totally different genre than Sour, but it's called Peach Cobbler. And that kind of brings to mind maybe an older film called American Pie. I don't know. Why did you?
Yes.
Why don't I let you tell us more about Peach Cobbler?
Well, yeah. So Peach Cobbler is the adult's American Pie, to be sure. It's a little Animal House. It's a raucous. A little parts are a little, a little raunchy, nothing crazy, but kind of in that vein of Animal House and American Pie. And Eric Roberts, Oscar nominated Eric Roberts, is in it. His wife, Eliza Roberts, who also was in the original Animal House.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and it's a couple of 4 couples after COVID finally go on a vacation after being out of quarantine, and they go to a resort. And as it turns out, the resort is having, unbeknownst to them, a swingers convention, and all sorts of shenanigans and ridiculousness, frankly, ensue. And I played Josh. I'm the guy putting the whole thing together for this trip, and kind of a little bit of a jerk and all about myself, and very, very self-centered. Josh is, and he comes, through all of the hijinks, he also comes to appreciate what he has and his friends more. So it does have a little redeeming quality at the end for my character, but it's a lot of laughs all the way through, and a lot of crazy. I will tell you that it is raucous comedy.
Okay, we need that right now. We need more of that. I can't wait.
Yeah,
but
I'm excited.
I want to ask you about another really, amazing thing on your resume, and that's when you were on Dawson's Creek on the old WB network, which for viewers who don't know, morphed into the CW. And you played Brady alongside that incredible cast, including James Van Der Beek, Katie Holmes, Michelle Williams, Josh Jackson. Let's hear about that. You must have some great memories.
Man, yeah, gosh, you know what? I will never, ever get tired of getting to talk about Dawson's Creek, because it reminds me to think about those days too. That was such an amazing, career-wise, obviously for a career, that was a really amazing, I was no longer doing daytime now. I was no longer doing soaps. I was not your commercial guy. I was this guy that could act and could be on in an ensemble cast on a huge series like Dawson's. And that was a great jump for me. That absolutely helped establish myself in that field, right? In that prime time kind of work. But from a personal aspect, we filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, right there at Wrightsville Beach, right on the coastline, which is just a gorgeous town anyway. And some of the friendships that I made on that with Kerr Smith, who played Jack, with Josh Jackson, Wes is one of his best friends. Just some of the friendships I made from being on that show will last a lifetime for sure. And I will say it was because I joined the cast in season 5. Chad Michael Murray and I kind of joined together, playing a little bit opposite ends of the story for the ensemble, filling out the ensemble, because they had started to diverge. They went to college, and they went to 2 different colleges, and then Dawson's character went to work in the big city. And so we were filling out some of those characters. And when they would bring all of those ensemble back together, and Brady, myself, and Charlie, which was Chad's character, would come back with them, to see those guys that had been on the show already for 4 seasons playing those roles work together, was just to be a part of it. It was electric. It was just electric. And the fans of that show, I think the support that show gets and received at the time was unbelievable. But now to see it come back on Netflix, you know, my son, I've got an 8-year-old son, and I remember he's screaming from the other room. I don't know how he ended up on it on Netflix, but it had just been re-released on Netflix, I guess. And he's screaming from the other room, Dad, Dad. And I came in because I'd never shown him, he's 8. I've never shown him Dawson's Creek. And there he's like, you're on, what is this? How have I never seen this? I was like, I need to change the settings on my Netflix because you can't watch this right now, man. This is a little racy for you. But you know, it's just the fact that it's being rediscovered by people, exactly what you said, that didn't even know the CW was, you know,
the WB.
was the WB before that. Like they're like, what are you talking about? The W? What are you talking about? The WB?
Yeah.
To have them watch it now is pretty neat. It's such a great thing to have been a part of such a show like that, you know, and to be a part of that fandom of it and the people that really, really stick to it. And I love that show.
Well, Burke, I know you said you have a shoot coming up, but I want to take a moment for happy hour to raise a toast to you, to your continued success, your health and well-being, and to thank you so much for being with me on Hillary's Happy Hour.
Thank you so much for having me, Hillary. And here's to you, young lady.
Oh, thank you.